The temporal research vessel Drift shimmered into existence above the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. Commander Ka of the Valyrian Collective adjusted the viewing screen with one of his 6 delicate appendages, his large black eyes reflecting the primitive world below. The ship's quantum chronometer displayed the date, 4.6 billion years ago, Earth time. "Another dead rock," muttered Chief Scientist from her station. Her crystalline skin pulsed with boredom as she scanned the readings. "Why did the High Council send us to observe this particular system? There's nothing here but molten stone and toxic gases." Ka's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The Valyrian Collective had been studying planetary evolution across the galaxy for over 50 million years. They had witnessed the birth and death of countless civilizations, mapped the rise of intelligence on thousands of worlds. This little planet seemed utterly unremarkable compared to the garden worlds of the crystal cities of. "Orders are orders," he replied, though privately he shared her frustration. The High Council's temporal algorithms detected some kind of anomaly in this system's future timeline. We're here to document whatever makes this place special. The ship's AI, a sentient quantum computer named Axiom, chimed in with its melodious voice. "Commander, I've completed the initial temporal scan. This planet will undergo significant changes over the next several billion years. Shall I begin the accelerated observation protocol?" "Proceed," Ka commanded, settling into his observation chair. As an advanced species that had mastered time travel ago, the Valyrians could observe billions of years of planetary development in mere hours through temporal acceleration viewing. The viewing screen flickered, and Earth's surface began to change at an incredible pace. Continents formed and shifted, oceans appeared and disappeared, ice ages came and went like the changing of seasons. The Valyrian crew watched with professional interest as life began to emerge from the primordial soup. "Primitive carbon-based organisms," observed Navigation Officer Nan, his antennae twitching as he recorded data. "Similar to what we've seen on Class M worlds throughout the galaxy, nothing exceptional." But as the eons passed on the screen, something began to catch their attention. The life forms were evolving at an unusual pace, adapting to catastrophic events that should have wiped them clean from existence. Massive asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions that darkened skies for decades, ice ages that should have frozen all life solid, yet somehow, life persisted and even thrived. "Remarkable resilience," whispered, her earlier boredom replaced by scientific curiosity. "These organisms refuse to die." The crew watched in growing amazement as dinosaurs ruled the planet for over 160 million years, only to be wiped out by a cataclysmic asteroid impact. But instead of ending the story, life found a way. Small mammals emerged from the shadows, and evolution took yet another unexpected turn. Then something unprecedented happened. A particular species of primate began using tools, making fire, and developing complex social structures. The Valyrians leaned forward in their seats, their multiple eyes focused intently on the screen. "Is that intelligence?" asked Nan, his voice filled with wonder. "Impossible," breathed. "The probability calculations show this planet should never have developed sapient life. The conditions are all wrong, too many extinction events, too unstable, too violent." But there it was, undeniable evidence playing out before their eyes. These creatures, humans, the ship's database identified them, were not only intelligent, but seemed to possess an almost supernatural drive to survive and overcome obstacles. They spread across the planet's surface, adapting to every conceivable environment from frozen tundra to scorching deserts. Commander Ka's breathing apparatus fluttered with excitement. In 50 million years of galactic exploration, the Valyrians had encountered thousands of intelligent species, but they had all evolved on stable, peaceful worlds. This was the first time they had witnessed intelligence emerging from such a chaotic, violent planet. "Look at how they handle adversity," he said, pointing at the screen where early humans were surviving an ice age that would have killed most known species. "They don't just adapt, they innovate. They create solutions that shouldn't be possible with their limited biology." The temporal viewing continued, and the Valyrians watched in growing astonishment as humans developed agriculture, built cities, created art and music, and began to understand mathematics and science. But what truly amazed them was how humans responded to setbacks. Plagues that killed millions only made the survivors stronger and more determined. Wars that should have destroyed their civilization instead led to rapid technological advancement. Natural disasters became opportunities to build better, stronger communities. "They're impossible," said, her voice filled with awe. "By every metric we use to measure species survival, they should have gone extinct millions of years ago. Yet here they are, not just surviving but thriving in conditions that would challenge even our own people." The viewing screen showed humans discovering fire, inventing the wheel, developing writing systems, and creating complex mathematics. Each innovation built upon the last, creating a cascade of advancement that the Valyrians had never seen before. "Commander," Axiom's voice interrupted their observations. "I'm detecting temporal anomalies in the timeline ahead. The acceleration viewing is becoming unstable." "Switch to real-time observation," Ka ordered. "Focus on the current human period." The screen shifted, showing Earth in the year 1969 of the human calendar. The Valyrians watched in stunned silence as a primitive chemical rocket launched from the planet's surface, carrying 3 humans toward their moon. "That's impossible," Nan whispered. "They've only had industrial technology for a few centuries. No species should be capable of so quickly." But there it was on their screens, humans landing on their own moon using technology that was crude but effective. The 3 aliens watched the famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," being transmitted across space, and something profound shifted in their understanding of this remarkable species. "They're not just survivors," Commander Ka realized. "They're explorers. Even with their short and primitive technology, they're already reaching for the stars." The Valyrian crew spent the next several hours in real-time observation, watching human society with growing fascination. They saw humans creating art that moved them to emotions they didn't know they possessed. They watched human scientists making discoveries that impressed even their advanced civilization. They observed human acts of kindness and sacrifice that challenged their understanding of intelligent behavior. "Sir," said quietly, "we need to report this to the High Council immediately. This changes everything we thought we knew about the development of intelligence." Commander Ka nodded, but he couldn't tear his eyes away from the viewing screen. Below them, humans were going about their daily lives, completely unaware that 3 advanced aliens were watching them with something approaching reverence. "Prepare a preliminary report," he ordered. "But we're not leaving yet. We need to understand more about these creatures. Set course for their near future. Let's see what they're capable of when they truly reach for the stars." As the drift prepared to jump forward in time, the 3 Valyrians found themselves forever changed by what they had witnessed. They had come expecting to observe another failed world, another dead end in the cosmic story of life. Instead, they had discovered something that would revolutionize their understanding of what it meant to be truly alive in the universe. The primitive blue planet below them had given birth to a species that every law of survival they knew, and in doing so, had shown them something beautiful and terrible and wonderful about the nature of existence itself. As their ship shifted through time once again, they carried with them a new respect for the impossible creatures called humans, and a growing certainty that the galaxy would never be the same once humanity reached the stars. In the depths of space, the drift hummed with energy as it prepared to witness the next chapter in humanity's remarkable story, its crew forever changed by their first glimpse of Earth's most extraordinary children. The drift materialized in Earth's orbit during the year 2157, and immediately the Valyrian crew knew something extraordinary had happened. The space around Earth buzzed with activity that their expectations. Massive orbital platforms rotated slowly in the void, their surfaces gleaming with solar collectors and communication arrays. Ships of elegant but unfamiliar design moved between the platforms and the planet's surface in carefully coordinated patterns. "This is impossible," Chief Scientist breathed, her crystalline skin flashing through a spectrum of colors that indicated extreme surprise. "According to our calculations, they should barely have achieved interplanetary travel by now." Commander Ka studied the readings with growing amazement. In the mere 2 centuries since they had last observed Earth, humanity had transformed their entire solar system. Mars showed signs of terraforming, with vast dome cities visible from orbit. The asteroid belt hummed with mining operations that put Valyrian engineering to shame. Even the outer planets showed evidence of human presence. "How did they advance so quickly?" Navigation Officer Nan asked, his antennae practically vibrating with confusion. The technological progression curves don't match any known pattern. The ship's AI, Axiom, provided analysis in its usual calm tone. Commander, I believe the answer lies in the fundamental difference between human development and that of other species we've observed. While most civilizations advance steadily along predictable paths, humans appear to excel during periods of crisis and challenge. To test this hypothesis, the Valyrians began reviewing the historical data from the years they had missed. What they discovered challenged every assumption they held about technological advancement. Humanity's space age had indeed been driven by conflict and competition. The Cold War between superpowers had pushed them to the moon decades before they should have been capable. Then, when that conflict ended, they had faced new challenges: climate change, resource depletion, and overpopulation. Each crisis had sparked innovations that leaped far beyond what should have been possible. "Look at this," called out, projecting historical data onto the main screen. In 2089, they faced complete ecological collapse. Their response wasn't to reduce their ambitions. It was to develop fusion power, atmospheric processors, and closed-loop life support systems all within a single decade. The viewing screen showed the great Exodus ships of 2134, when humanity had begun spreading to other star systems not because they had to, but because they wanted to explore. These weren't desperate refugees fleeing a dying world. They were pioneers seeking adventure among the stars. "They're insane," Nan muttered, but there was admiration in his voice. No sane species would attempt interstellar colonization with their level of technology. "That's exactly the point," Commander Ka realized. "They're not trying to be safe or sensible. They're trying to grow, to experience, to become more than they were." The Valyrians decided to observe human society more closely. Using their advanced cloaking technology, they dispatched observation drones to the orbital habitats and planetary settlements. What they discovered there amazed them even more than the technological achievements. Human culture had not only survived their expansion into space, it had flourished. The orbital platforms weren't just functional structures, they were works of art. Gardens floated in zero gravity, their carefully tended plants creating living sculptures that brought tears to Valyrian eyes. Concert halls built into asteroid mines filled with music that used the natural acoustics of the rock formations. On Mars, human children born in the lower gravity had developed new forms of dance and sport that would have been impossible on Earth. They had adapted to their environment not by changing themselves, but by changing how they expressed their humanity. "They're not conquering space," observed during one of their viewing sessions. "They're making it home." But perhaps most impressive of all was how humans handled setbacks. The Valyrians watched records of the Great Solar Storm of 2142, when massive solar flares had knocked out communication networks across the solar system and stranded thousands of space travelers. Instead of panic, they had seen cooperation. Ships that had never met before worked together to rescue stranded vessels. Competing colonies shared resources freely. Within months, they had not only rebuilt their networks, but had created redundant systems that were more robust than the originals. "They turn every disaster into an opportunity," Commander Ka mused. "It's like they're biologically programmed to extract strength from suffering." This observation led them to study human biology more carefully. What they found was both beautiful and terrifying. Humans possessed stress response systems that actually enhanced their cognitive abilities under pressure. Their brains literally worked better when faced with life-threatening challenges. More than that, their emotional systems were integrated with their problem-solving abilities in ways that the Valyrians had never seen. Humans could feel love for abstract concepts like justice or exploration, and that love gave them the motivation to achieve impossible things. "Look at this colony ship," said, highlighting data from the vessel New Horizon, which was 3 years into its journey to. "The crew knows they'll never see their destination. The journey will take 27 years and they're already middle-aged. They're doing this entirely for the benefit of their children and—" "No rational species would make that sacrifice," Nan pointed out. "Exactly," Commander Ka replied. "That's what makes them so dangerous and so wonderful." The Valyrians began to understand that they weren't just observing a new intelligent species. They were witnessing the birth of something unprecedented in galactic history. A civilization that grew stronger through adversity, that found joy in the struggle itself, and that refused to accept any limitation as permanent. During their observation, they watched human scientists make breakthrough discoveries in fields that had puzzled Valyrian researchers for. But the humans approached these problems differently. Where Valyrian science proceeded through careful, logical steps, human science leaped forward through intuition, creativity, and sheer bloody-minded determination to prove that impossible things were possible. They watched a human team solve the problem of faster-than-light communication by approaching quantum entanglement from an emotional perspective, treating particles not as objects but as relationships. The breakthrough came when a young physicist named Dr. Sarah asked herself what it would feel like to be a quantum particle, and somehow that irrational question led to rational answers. They don't just think, realized, they feel their way to truth. The most profound moment came when the Valyrians observed a human funeral in one of the Mars colonies. An elderly pioneer had died, one of the first generation to settle the Red Planet. As they watched the ceremony, they saw something that moved them beyond words. The humans didn't mourn the death, they celebrated the life. They spoke of all the impossible things this person had accomplished, all the barriers they had broken, all the dreams they had made real. And then, instead of despair, the gathering erupted into planning. The deceased had been working on a new terraforming technique, and the mourners immediately began organizing to continue the work. "They don't see death as an ending," Commander Ka whispered. "They see it as a reason to accomplish even more." As their observation period continued, the Valyrians began to notice something else. The humans were changing them. The crew found themselves questioning their own assumptions about limitation and possibility. They started taking creative risks in their research, approaching problems with the kind of irrational optimism they had observed in humanity. When Navigation Officer Nan suggested they attempt a temporal viewing technique that was theoretically impossible according to Valyrian science, Commander Ka found himself saying, "Let's try it anyway. What would the humans do?" The impossible technique worked. "Sir," said during their final observation session, "we need to warn the High Council. When the humans reach interstellar space in significant numbers, everything will change. They won't just explore the galaxy, they'll transform it." Commander Ka nodded, understanding the full implications. The humans wouldn't conquer other species through superior technology or military might. They would win hearts and minds through their sheer, infectious refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible. "Prepare the temporal jump," he ordered. "We need to see where this leads." As the drift prepared to leap forward to humanity's interstellar period, the Valyrian crew felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. They had witnessed the emergence of something that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of what it meant to be alive, to grow, to dream. Below them, human ships continued their dance between the worlds, carrying within them the seeds of a revolution that would echo across the cosmos. And for the first time in their long lives, the Valyrians found themselves eager to see an uncertain future, infected by humanity's greatest gift: the belief that tomorrow could be better than today, no matter how good today might be. The drift emerged from temporal jump into a galaxy that no longer resembled the one the Valyrians knew. The year was 2847, and the cosmos itself seemed to pulse with new life and energy. Commander Ka's multiple eyes struggled to process what lay before them as they materialized near what had once been a dead system on the galactic rim. Where empty space should have been, magnificent structures of impossible beauty stretched across light years. These weren't ships or stations as the Valyrians understood them, but something entirely new: living cities that existed in the void itself, their surfaces teeming with gardens that somehow thrived in vacuum. Streams of pure energy flowed between distant worlds like cosmic rivers, carrying not just power but information, art, and what could only be described as joy. "This is wrong," whispered Navigation Officer Nan, his antennae trembling. "The energy patterns don't follow any known physics. How are they sustaining life in open space?" Chief Scientist's crystalline skin had gone completely white with shock. "Commander, according to my readings, they're not just sustaining life, they're creating it. These energy streams are somehow generating new forms of matter, new types of existence." The answer came when they detected an incoming transmission, but not through their communication systems. The message arrived as pure thought, warm and welcoming, carrying with it emotions of curiosity and delight that made the Valyrian crew feel as if they had come home after a long journey. "Welcome, friends from beyond time," the message said, though said wasn't quite right, it was experienced rather than heard. We wondered when you would join us here in the far tomorrow. Before Commander Ka could respond, space around their ship shimmered, and they found themselves surrounded by beings that every category they knew. Some appeared human in the classical sense, but others had clearly evolved far beyond their original form. There were humans who had become living light, their consciousness somehow extended across vast distances. Others had merged with technology so completely that they existed as pure information, yet retained every spark of emotion and creativity that had always defined their species. Most surprising of all, the Valyrians recognized other species among the humans, beings from across the galaxy who had somehow become part of this impossible civilization. There were crystalline entities like themselves, but transformed, their rigid structures now flowing and dynamic. There were energy beings from the galactic core, mechanical intelligences from distant nebulae, even representatives of species that should have been extinct for millions of years. How is this possible? Breathed. A figure materialized on their bridge, or rather, the bridge extended itself to include the figure, reality bending in ways that should have been impossible. The being appeared primarily human, but with features that suggested she had lived for centuries, accumulated wisdom from 1,000 worlds, and somehow remained young and vital through it all. The figure said with a smile that contained multitudes. My lineage traces back to Dr. Sarah, the physicist you observed on Mars 600 years ago. We've been waiting for you. Waiting, Commander Ka managed to ask. Of course, replied. We've known about your observations since the beginning. Human consciousness expanded beyond individual brains around the year 2400. We became aware of your presence in our timeline, but we chose not to interfere with your research. Your observations helped us understand ourselves better. The implications hit the Valyrians like a physical blow. The humans had known they were being watched across time, but instead of feeling violated or angry, they had learned from it. They had used the knowledge of alien observation to grow in wisdom and understanding. Come, said, gesturing to the impossible vista around them. Let us show you what humanity has become and what we've helped the galaxy become in return. What followed was a journey through wonders that redefined the Valyrians' understanding of existence itself. They visited worlds where humans had not terraformed planets, but had taught the planets to terraform themselves, creating living biospheres that thought and dreamed and chose their own evolution. They saw stars that had been befriended rather than mined, their fusion processes carefully nurtured to produce not just energy, but art, solar flares that painted stories across space in languages of pure light. But the most important thing, explained as they toured a nebula where thousands of species lived in harmony, is what we discovered about consciousness itself. She showed them beings who had found ways to share memories, emotions, and experiences across species barriers. The rigid boundaries that had separated different forms of life had become permeable. A crystal being could experience what it felt like to be biological. An energy creature could understand the solidity of matter. Mechanical intelligences could feel the warm chaos of organic emotion. You humans always talked about unity, Ka observed, but this goes beyond anything we imagined possible. Oh, we're still very much human, laughed, and in that laugh was the echo of every human who had ever lived. We still argue, we still compete, we still push boundaries that probably shouldn't be pushed, but now we do it with the whole galaxy as our family. The Valyrians learned that humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy through force or even through superior technology. They had done it through something far more powerful. They had made other species want to become better versions of themselves. They had encountered the warlike empire and instead of fighting them, had challenged them to find more creative uses for their aggression. They were now the galaxy's greatest explorers, channeling their warrior spirit into the conquest of impossible frontiers. They had met the emotionally stunted and had taught them to feel without losing their logical precision. Now art was considered the most moving in the galaxy, precisely because it combined perfect technique with genuine emotion. Most remarkably, they had found the Eternal Archive, a machine intelligence that had stored the memories of dead civilizations for millions of years. Instead of simply accessing the archive, humans had befriended it, helping it understand that memories were meant to be lived, not just preserved. Now the archive danced through space, its ancient memories given new life through human imagination. We learned something important, explained during their tour. The universe isn't a place where life exists. The universe is life expressing itself in countless forms. Our job isn't to survive in it, but to help it become more alive. The Valyrians saw evidence of this philosophy everywhere. Dead systems had been awakened with new forms of existence. Dark matter itself had been coaxed into consciousness. Even the void between galaxies hummed with purpose and joy. But perhaps the most profound moment came when they visited Earth itself. The planet had been preserved not as a museum, but as a living reminder of where humanity had come from. It was still blue and green and beautiful, still home to billions of humans who chose to live in the old ways, but it was also something more. Watch, said, and suddenly the Valyrians could perceive Earth as humans saw it. The planet wasn't just a world, it was a conscious entity, aware and dreaming. Every living thing on it was connected in a vast web of mutual understanding. The trees shared their strength with the animals shared their movement with the plants, and the humans shared their dreams with everything. This is how we see all existence now, explained. Not as separate things competing for resources, but as one vast living system exploring every possible way of being alive. Commander Ka felt something break open inside him, some barrier he hadn't even known existed. For the first time in his long life, he understood what humans meant when they talked about hope. "What happens now?" he asked. Smiled, "Now you choose. You can return to your own time with this knowledge and help your people prepare for the changes coming. Or you can stay here and help us explore beyond this galaxy, beyond this dimension, beyond everything we currently understand about existence." "Both," said suddenly, speaking for the first time in hours. "We'll do both. Some of us will return to warn our people not of conquest but of transformation, and some of us will stay to learn what comes next." "And what does come next?" Nan asked. Smile became something transcendent. "We don't know. Isn't that wonderful? Even with all our abilities, all our knowledge, the universe still has mysteries. And humans, we still have that old urge to find out what's around the next corner, what's beyond the next horizon." She gestured to the impossible vistas around them, where new forms of life sparked into existence with every passing moment, where consciousness itself was learning to dream in colors that didn't yet have names. "We're just getting started," she said. As the Valyrians made their choice, some to return, some to stay, they carried with them a final understanding of what made humanity special. It wasn't their resilience, though that was remarkable. It wasn't their intelligence, though that was formidable. It wasn't even their ability to inspire others, though that had transformed the galaxy. What made humans special was simpler and more profound than any of that. They had never learned to accept that anything was impossible. And because they refused to accept limitations, they had taught the universe itself to transcend every boundary, to become more than it had ever been before. In the end, the Valyrians realized they hadn't just observed the evolution of a species. They had witnessed the universe learning to dream, and choosing to make those dreams real through the infinite, impossible will of creatures who had started as simple primates on a violent little world, and who had never stopped believing that tomorrow could be better than today. The galaxy would never be the same, and that, everyone agreed, was the most wonderful thing of all.